We're talking disaster relief, and we have two experts, volunteers, and those who have worked on site with both Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. And I wanted to ask both Sandy Stein and Rob Skertich, who are part of this, exactly the kinds of experience you've been through. What have you learned about disaster relief that might be helpful as we go forward? And then I'll ask you specifically about Puerto Rico, but just in general. Sandy, we'll start with you. Are there some lessons learned from your experiences? You've been to 10 disaster relief efforts, and surely you've seen, have things gotten better?
Things have definitely improved. We learned a lot of lessons from Katrina, and we learned how to better organize, how better to support the people that are affected by a disaster.
Can you give me an example? What would be one of the things you learned most coming out of Katrina, particularly?
We pre-deploy people so that we have Red Cross people ready to go as soon as a disaster occurs.
Now that is very interesting. So instead of waiting until after the disaster hits,
right,
you get down there on site.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be dangerous. I mean, you're actually going through the event itself, but you're
correct.
There.
That's correct.
With the people.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
But it provides for immediate assistance.
Absolutely.
So that they're not waiting. Everybody is able to get into a safe place and be served immediately.
Right. And Rob, you've been doing this over 30 years, I gather. So first of all, have things gotten better?
Yes, I think they have, but the one message that everybody needs to understand is disaster preparedness starts in the home.
Mm-hmm.
You may think, okay, this storm isn't going to be so bad, I'll be able to weather through that. But what about the next couple of days? What happens when you don't have power or you don't have water? Or one of the problems that we see now are people that have just-in-time pharmacy that's delivered to their home. Do you have medical supplies or your prescriptions that are going to take you through a couple of days?
Right.
So the message of personal preparedness is really important.
I think that's a great message, because I know you should always stock up on water, and as you point out, you should stock up on your medicines if you know that if you're going to go a week or so without medicine.
Yeah, and any special kind of things that you might need for small children, maybe elders that you're taking care of, and certainly pets as well.
Right. Now, I know you're not in Puerto Rico, but there certainly has been a lot of news and commentary on Puerto Rico. Can you help us to understand what is it that you think we could be doing in Puerto Rico that maybe we should be doing better? Either one of you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think an issue that you run into, certainly with any island, and I worked the Haitian earthquake a number of years back. Right. The problem that you have is getting stuff there. So getting it transported, getting it through the ports, getting it on the roadways, but the problem that they're running into is there are so much damage to the roadways and bridges. So the infrastructure problem is really a problem, is really a challenge to them. So I think really looking at new and novel ways of getting things to where they need to be.
Right. Would that involve air transport and parachuting?
Yes, and I believe that they are doing that. The military and FEMA are working together to use aircraft and use other ways of getting things to people.
Right. Sandy, how about in terms of the individuals themselves? If I understand Puerto Rico correctly, San Juan might be okay, where the president visited, but there's a whole lot of other areas where there, at least there's suggestions that nobody has shown up yet from FEMA or anywhere else. Can the Red Cross play a role in that? Are you playing a role in Puerto Rico? I'm assuming you are.
Definitely, we are. One of the things that happens right immediately when a disaster occurs is that the damage assessment people go in and look for where are the areas that need assistance. So they are continually spreading out as the roads clear and it becomes passable.
But that's the challenge, isn't it? If roads and transportation's been disruptive as it has on that island, it gets very difficult to get into the nooks and crannies to determine how folks are doing.
People get very creative. I've worked on an emergency response vehicle where you go out and serve food to the people. And in West Virginia would be a good example. Like a little boy would come down on his ATV every day and pick up the meals for all the people that were isolated up on the hill and couldn't come down for their meals, or
Right.
you know, we would send a raft across the little creek and they would pick up their meals. So
Yeah, there was tremendous
just-
flooding in West Virginia not long ago, wasn't there?
a year ago I was
A year
there.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that the government, obviously you folks are both government and volunteers, what exactly, Rob, do you think the government's role is in something like this, and does it depend on volunteers like Sandy?
Oh, absolutely. The non-governmental organizations are tremendously important in disasters, whether it's the Red Cross. We were talking before about the Southern Baptists, and that's a great organization because they have mobile kitchens that can do 50,000 meals a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's all of these nonprofit organizations that really fit into disaster management, and there's an organization called the National Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, NVOAD, that all of these agencies are part of. So that gives people an opportunity to go to that website and say, you know what, I really like that mission, that's who I want to support.
Well, I think in the end, both of you have done tremendous service, and we really appreciate it. And it's indicative of Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh people. I know we've seen an outpouring of contributions from folks in the Pittsburgh area. Thank you both for your service. It's really appreciated, and for sharing your stories with us this morning. We really appreciate it again. And one last word, because I want to make sure that if they're volunteers or even those who want to apply for paid positions, there's openings. So contact these guys, contact their organizations. We've had them up on the screen. Thank you again for being part of all this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
When the Sunday Business page continues, how Community College of Allegheny County